Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session analysis and resentment. My name is Angelica Ordos Goitia, training and development specialist. I'm going to present Johaira Bouza from TeachStone.
So hi, my name is Dr. Johaira Boza, and I'm going to be talking to you about analysis and reasoning at the center-based areas. But before I get there, I do want to introduce myself. So like I said, my name is Dr. Johaira Boza, and I am born and raised here in Miami. I actually live in Hialeah, and I saw many of you are from many sites that I've done a lot of work before. I saw some of you are from Paradise. I saw teachers from Precious Moments. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm glad that the ELC is providing this opportunity for you all to get some professional development. And I always like to start off with explaining a little bit about why I do the work that I do. So like I said, I was born and raised here in Hialeah, and I had amazing teachers that were able to work with my parents and were able to scaffold me to be able to get me to learn. Right. And a lot of my teachers were just like you guys. They were teachers that, especially in my preschool years, that they didn't master the English language. They were immigrants from countries like Cuba or Venezuela or Nicaragua. And they were teachers that came with this great passion for teaching. And I was able to benefit from that a lot. My parents and my teachers worked together throughout the years. I was able to go to the University of Miami, and I started volunteering in early childhood classrooms here in Miami-Dade County, programs like Centro Mate, Easter Seals. And as I was volunteering in these programs, I realized that I was really passionate about helping children just like me. So I went off to college, and in college, I decided to get my master's in statistics, but I was really passionate about working with teachers and parents. And since then, I finished my PhD, and even throughout my PhD, I was working directly with teachers in classrooms just like you. So I was doing coaching with teachers. I was supporting resource specialists, directors to learn about child development and really like not what's in the book, right? Because there's a lot of things in the books that are really great, but right there with the children in practice, how do we implement those things in an effective way? So I really want to thank you all for being here today. I know that you all are just as passionate about doing the work that we all do together. And I really appreciate the keynote speaker today because she was pointing out about how resilient you all are. You all, even after the pandemic and during the pandemic, you were still there taking care of the most important thing that we have in our society, these little minds that are going to be the future of our world. So I really hope that you took the message from that keynote speaker and that you put that into practice where you're actually thinking about what are you proud of what you did and how you're proud of your colleague. And having this moment of reflection where we really acknowledge all the important work that we're doing. So now, before I get started, every session, and it follows this keynote speaker really nicely, I always like to start with asking teachers, what is something that you did today to take care of yourself? It could be something simple like drinking your Cuban cafecito, or it can be like you did a prayer in the morning, or it can be a walk or yoga. So I want you to share with me in the chat, what is something that you did today to take care of yourself? Not your husband, not your children, but yourself. Okay, I see people were listening to music. You had breakfast, very important, enjoying a warm coffee, prayer, sleeping in. These are all great ways to take care of yourselves. And I know sometimes we think, oh, it's selfish to take care of ourselves because we have all these other things to do, but it's actually not, because you cannot fill from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself before you're able to take care of others. And I actually love what Carla shared. I smiled today. It can be something as simple as that, as just smiling and getting ready to have a good day, getting ready to face the obstacles of that day with a positive attitude. And that's what you all did today. Early this Saturday morning, you woke up, you got ready, you smiled. I saw many of you enjoyed a breakfast, did a prayer, and you got ready to be part of this session. So I'm glad you're doing things to take care of yourselves, and make sure you're doing something every single day, even if it's small, so then it can get your mind and body ready to start thinking about how we're going to support children's analysis and reasoning skills. So now we're going to get down. So we are going to talk about analysis and reasoning at center time. And in the chat, I want you to just think about if you've ever had to figure something out without fully understanding it. And how did that make you feel? And just describe that in just one sentence. So in other sessions, teachers have shared with me when they were given a new format for a lesson plan, and they didn't understand it, and they were just trying to complete it, and how that made them feel. So what are some examples of something that you have had to figure out without fully understanding it and how it made you feel? I saw Michelle shared that she was frustrated. Yes, it's a very common feeling during that time when you don't know how something is going to work out. Bridget was saying not smart, right? When we don't fully understand something and we're trying to figure it out, it doesn't make us feel confident in our abilities, even angry with ourselves. And that is a very common feeling, right? When we feel frustrated and we feel confused. Now I want you to think about that same time, or maybe a time that was different, where you had someone there to help you figure it out. How did that help you feel when you had someone there to help you figure it out? Beth was sharing happy, relieved, safe. Yes. And that's exactly what we do to children when we're supporting their analysis and reasoning. They are encountering things in your classroom that they don't fully understand. They are being asked to figure things out that challenge their thinking, that challenge their abilities, because you want to help them learn. And you are the person that helps them feel secure, safe, relieved, at ease, gives them an inspiration that they will be able to do it, and gives them the confidence. And today we're going to talk about what are ways that you can help that child even feel more relieved, more safe, more able, and be able to succeed in what they're learning. So before we get into that, I'm going to tell you what you're going to get from today's session. So today we are going to talk about the importance of analysis and reasoning, and we are going to get a good understanding of what exactly is that. What is supporting children's analysis and reasoning? And one of the things I love about the Teachstone sessions is that not only will we be able to talk about it today, but you'll be able to see a video of a teacher just like you doing it in action, seeing her be able to support the analysis and reasoning that we're talking about in a session. And we'll be able to discuss that teacher doing that. Then, because I know you all have a lot of things going on, we also give you a downloadable tip sheet. And what this tip sheet does is that it gives you a summary. It's just one page, and it gives you a summary of everything we talk about in the session today that you can continuously refer back to be able to implement these ideas in your real classroom with your real children. So what we'll do is that we'll first talk about analysis and reasoning, and we'll be talking about some key ideas about that. Then we'll talk about center time. And then we'll talk about some tips for analysis and reasoning in center time. Then review that video analysis of seeing the teacher doing it in practice. And we'll talk about the downloadable tip sheet that's going to just summarize everything together that we talk about today. And then we will have a Q&A. You all will notice, if you haven't already noticed, that I really make an effort, especially during these remote sessions, to have the teachers speak. I want to hear, what are the examples of things that you're doing in your classroom? What are the examples that have worked with children when you're supporting these things? So please share as much as you can in that chat We are a community of people that is here to help each other, to give each other ideas. And we would love to hear from you at any point throughout this presentation. All right, so let's get to it. So now let's think of a time that you noticed a child in your classroom, and you noticed that they were using their thinking to solve a problem, and describe 3 words of what you observed in that child. So a child is trying to solve a problem and they're using their own thinking. What are some things that you noticed about that child? Curious, confident, patient, determined. The child was asking questions. They were focused. Trial and error, right? So they were repeating the same thing multiple times and being having perseverance. Asking questions, great. These are great examples of things that we notice that children are doing when they are trying to solve problems. So these are things that we want to continuously see. I saw Anna was sharing that sometimes they're reluctant, right? Because it's hard. And when we do hard things, sometimes we don't want to do them. And that is absolutely very common in a child when they're trying to solve a problem. And that's when we as adults come in and we help them become more interested. We help them feel safe to take the risk. We help ask them questions so they can solve their own problems. And that's exactly what analysis and reasoning is about. So we're going to talk about some key ideas about analysis and reasoning. And the first key idea that we're going to talk about is that when we talk about analysis and reasoning, this isn't about getting a child to memorize something. This isn't about getting a child to say a specific thing. This is about encouraging children to think for themselves and to reason for themselves. And so we as teachers want to provide children the opportunities to think about the how they are going to accomplish something. We are not telling them how. We are helping them think through how. Together, we are scaffolding them. So we are providing, think about it as kind of a ladder, right? Where we're trying to get to the next step. We are that ring in the ladder that's providing that step. We're not taking the step for them. We are encouraging them to think about that how and that why, so they themselves can get a deeper understanding of the concept. So let's suppose that you see a child that is building something during center time. Maybe they're building a tower. Instead of me as a teacher saying, I'm going to show you how to build that tower. You're going to put this block and this block and this block, and this is how you're going to do it. Instead, I will ask that child a question to get them to think and say, how are you going to build the tower? What materials are you going to use? Show me. Are you going to use these blocks or these blocks? How are you going to stack it? And getting the child themselves to come up with their own plan, to think about how they are going to accomplish building that tower. And so when we do this, we give children opportunities where they themselves can make their own plan. They can make predictions about what is going to happen when I do this. They can brainstorm. They can use that trial and error that we talked about earlier, where they're trying these different ideas. And guess what? Some of those ideas are going to fail. And that's okay, because through failure is when they will learn. And then they get to evaluate their ideas and say, did that work? Or did that fail? Did that help me build a small tower? Oh no, because I didn't put the bigger blocks in the bottom. And that gives them the aha moment themselves of them learning, oh, I need to put those bigger blocks in the bottom for me to build that tower. And you all know as teachers that when we have the aha moment ourselves, when we say, oh, wow, yeah, that's how that's done. I learned from that. That is how we're going to remember things. That is how we're truly going to learn them, and how it's going to encourage us to think in other scenarios in the same way. And that's what we want to give children. Instead of just telling them what to do, we want them to have opportunities to think about the how and the why, so they themselves can gain that deeper understanding of the concept. Any questions about this key idea, of giving children the opportunity to think about how and why? I see in the chat that teachers are saying that they need to experiment to learn. So, Cinia, you're right. Necesitan experimentar para aprender. They need to experiment themselves to be able to learn. And that can help them feel more interested, more secure, and more confident. Okay. And you're using their critical thinking, absolutely. All right, so now we're going to talk about some key ideas about center time. So center time is this time where children have a lot of flexibility. They decide where they're going to play. They decide what materials they're going to use. And because they are already making those decisions, you are already a step ahead of the game as a teacher, because that child is already interested, because they have already chosen what they want to do. So center time is an absolutely crucial time and easy time for teachers to promote these analysis and reasoning. Because as a teacher, like Rachel was saying this morning, your job is to entertain the kids, to get them hooked, to get them interested. When you are in circle time, you are putting on a 15-minute show. In those 15 minutes, you have to capture their attention. Guess what? In center time, that's already done for you. They are already interested. They are already engaged. So all you have to do now is that you have to go in there, see what they're already interested in, and challenge their thinking. And now you are going to go in and say, how are you going to do that? And why did you choose that material? And what is your plan to do that? And how is it that you are going to make that happen? Who are you going to work with that can help you do that? So your job there now is to be that ladder, to be those rings and those ladders, rather than you putting on the entire show and trying to keep them interested. So center time gives you an opportunity to already be scaffold and be on what that child is already interested in and challenge their thinking. And that helps them develop those problem solving skills and reasoning skills while using materials that they already want to play with. And you can ask questions like, why did the building fall? Let's think about that. What did you put in the bottom? What did you put in the top? What did we learn? How are we going to build the building again so it could be stronger? We can ask them questions, and how are you going to figure out how much water to use? Maybe they're playing with sand and they're trying to make a cake, a birthday cake. Children love to do that. And we want to figure out how much water are we going to add? And what's going to happen when we add the water? How is the texture of the sand going to change? We can even make comparisons there and say, why is it different? Why is the sand getting more mushy? What is the water doing? Is it making it more mushy, or is it actually making it drier? And asking these questions that can help promote their thinking skills. We can have them look at a problem and say, how do we figure that out? What can we do to solve this problem? So one of the things that I love to do during center time when I'm with kids is, let's suppose that they want to be in an area and there's only 2 chairs in that table in that area. Asking them, there's 3 of us that want to be in this area. How do we solve this problem? What can we do to solve this problem? Because there's only 2 chairs. Where's the other person going to sit? And getting them to say, oh, we can get a chair from the art area. Oh, that is a great solution. Let's see. Let's go to the art area and ask our friends there if they're using that chair. So we can bring that chair over here. And so now we are teaching problem-solving skills that is helping not only with their cognitive development, but also with their social development. Now they're having to communicate with another friend to solve a problem. Elizabeth gave a great statement that really helps, saying something like, I'm wondering what will happen if, to give children ideas of ways to solve their problem. And that promotes their critical thinking skills. We can ask them to notice similarities or differences. We can ask them to wonder how to solve a problem and evaluate that. Did that solve our problem? Did bringing that extra chair from the art area help us all sit down? Yes, it did. So it seems like we had a great idea. And when the problem isn't solved, then we evaluate that and say, that wasn't solved. That chair was broken, so we couldn't sit in it. So what's another way that we can solve that problem? And so in this center time, it is a great time to challenge your thinking, to ask these questions, and to develop these problem solving and reasoning skills. And you're a step ahead of the game because you're using materials that they're already interested in. You are already following the goal that they already care about accomplishing. Okay, any questions about the second key idea about center time before we move into the third one? All right. Okay, so for the third key idea, we have that center time is a great time to invite children to explore, discover, and understand concepts through play. So play is a great opportunity, and that's already happening in center time. And so in these center time experiences, they have a lot of hands-on activities, minds-on activities that they are already doing. For example, if a child is using Play-Doh, we can use that time to explore different shapes and think about how are the shapes different and the same. We made a triangle and a circle. So how are they the same? How are they different? What happens if we would put the triangle on top of the circle? Could it balance on there? I don't know. Let's try a ball and a pyramid and let's see. Are the blocks staying the same as the Play-Doh? And we can talk through these things together, and it allows them to be part of that learning experience so they themselves can expand their knowledge. Okay, any questions about that third key idea? Okay. So let's move on. All right. So I know that we've talked a lot about great ideas about how to promote analysis and reasoning at center time. And I know that you have teachers have already been doing a lot of this. So I want you to think about the center time in your classroom. And I know some programs may call it work time or free play time, whatever you call it. But that idea, that time of the day where children are going to the different areas and they're playing. I want you to think about what might interfere during that center time. What might interfere in your ability to be able to engage children in this deeper thinking? What are some obstacles that you have faced or that you think you would face during center time that might interfere with your ability to engage children's thinking more deeply? So Anna was sharing using the right words, right? Using that right language to be able to do that. And that is absolutely true. And that's why it's so important to have moments like this, moments where you're out of the action in a professional development session, to give you time and space and ideas to think about what are some of those questions that you can say beforehand. You know, things like the examples that we talked about. How are you going to build that? How is that the same? How is that different? Why are you placing that there? Why did you make that decision? And writing down these example questions can help us use some of those right words, because thinking about it in the moment is very, very hard. Oh, Heidi was bringing up an important point. when all the children want to go to the same area, right? And that is a very common thing to happen because some areas are much cooler to children in certain times than others. And that is common for it to happen. One of the strategies that we can use to avoid that, and I've seen this work very nicely for different teachers in preschool classroom, is that teachers have created little badges that there could be only 4 or 5 kids at a time. And as they're asking children where they're going to play with, they have these little badges in front of them and children are choosing. And then what they do is that they help children say, if you don't want to play there anymore, then you have to communicate with your friend in the area that you want to go and exchange the badges. And the kids kind of like clip it on their clothes. So that is a strategy that I've seen work really well to support children. So as they're picking their area, we limit the amount of children that are going to each area and give them a visual thing, a visual cue that they can switch and exchange from each other in case they want to move from areas. Maritza was sharing children having tantrums. Yes. And when we're facing challenging behavior in a classroom, it is not a great time to promote children's thinking. And that is why it is absolutely crucial to have a co-teacher in the classroom, because you and your co-teacher can work together. One of you can be working with the kids more intensely. And when there's a tantrum, you guys take turns on the tantrums, on the behavior problems, to be able to support that other child emotionally, to be able to calm them down and be able to validate their feelings, figure out what is going on, to get them to support them during that time without neglecting the other kids. So that teamwork really helps with that. And also preventing the challenging behavior. You as teachers know your children, right? And so, for example, you might know that Danny and Jason, when they play together, they're usually going to have some challenging behavior. So if I know that as a teacher, one of the teachers is going to go to the center that Danny and Jason are playing with so that she could work together with those 2 kids. Great. So there are definitely some challenges of promoting these higher thinking skills for children during center time. And I think it's important we talk about those challenges and give each other ideas about things that have worked in your classroom, things that have worked in my classroom, that have been able to support us during those challenges, so then we can get into supporting children's deeper thinking. All right. Any questions about the key ideas before we give an example here about how to promote analysis and reasoning? Great. Yeah, I see that one of the teachers was bringing to light the importance of working with the co-teacher well. That's absolutely important, particularly during center time. Also, as human beings, it's great to have that co-teacher be your cheerleader, like Rachel said this morning, right? So working together, not only for the children in the classroom, but also being a support for each other to congratulate each other for all the great things that you've been doing. Okay. And so this is just an idea of an experience that you can do with children in the classroom that can help promote some of these analysis and reasoning. And so before this experience, what you would need to do to prepare is that you would need to tape a large paper in the wall that's going to be used to like make a mural.
Oh my God, Pamela.
So, and I don't think you're in mute anymore. All right.
Yes.
It's okay. So we tape a very large piece of paper on the wall, and you can use kind of that butcher paper. I've seen teachers use it a lot, that very long paper. We're going to put it on the wall and we can make a mural. And then we're going to set out different materials for the kids to be able to use. Maybe we have a station that has markers, another one that has color pencils, paint, glue, small pieces of fabric, construction paper, tissue paper, feathers. And so we have these different materials along the mural. And this is what we do before the experience to prepare for the experience. Notice that we're doing things before the experience to set it up to prevent some of those challenges. If I only have 2 markers and I have 10 kids, we're going to have some challenging behavior. If I already have, if I don't have the things set up in different stations and children could go to different materials, then they might all want to go to the same material. So setting up these interesting materials before, and there's a variety of them, is going to help in preparing for this experience for it to go well. So all you need is a large piece of paper that you're going to tape on the wall to make this mural, and the different materials that many of you I know already have in your classroom. Okay, so during the experience, you are going to encourage this analysis and reasoning that we talked about. So we gather the children around the paper and we tell them, today we are going to work together to create a magical land. And you're going to explain things about that magical land. And while we're talking to them, remember, we want to make sure that we get them engaged and interested. So we want to say, we want you to use your imagination. What do you want to have in this magical place? And ask the children for their ideas. Oh, you want to build a unicorn. Oh, you want to have a transformer. Oh, do you want Mirabel from Encanto to be there? And so you have these children think about what is the magical things that they want to have in this place. And then you ask them, how? How can we use paper and materials to show these magical things in our mural? What are we going to use? And how can we make sure that every person has a place to work in our mural? How are we going to make sure that? What can we do? And doing this experience, and I've seen teachers do this experience, I've worked with teachers to create it before, some of the kids have great ideas. I was in a classroom once that a kid said, oh, we can put tape on the floor so we can each have our own box. And the teacher was like, that's a great idea. Help me put tape on the floor so we can have a tape for each kid. And so kids sometimes will give you these great ideas if you help them and ask them the questions. Some of the kids have said, putting a chair in front of each section. Some kids have said, draw a line and put my name on the top. And so ask them, how can we make sure that everyone has a place to work in this mural? And they're going to tell you, they're going to give you ideas that maybe you didn't think of that can help you not only support their analysis and reasoning, but also prevent some of these challenges. And then we can ask them, what would happen if once they've drawn it and they've put it together, what would happen if we had this in the real world? If we had this magical place in the real world? So I see a teacher sharing here, helping them think, ayudarlos a pensar. And that's exactly what analysis and reasoning is. Don't do the thinking for them. Don't say, oh, you do this and you use this and this is how you do it. That is great for them to learn that thing. But getting them to think about it and to problem solve is going to be a deeper level of learning. It's going to be a deeper understanding. It's going to be a deeper analysis. And so that is actually going to help them learn. And then we're going to encourage some of their reasoning. What will happen in this magical place? You decided that this place needs let's suppose a kid said a transformer. That's a great idea. Why did you choose a transformer? What would a transformer help us do in this magical place? Who do you want to invite to your magical place? Why? Why do you want to invite that person? What are some ways that we can get to this magical place? What's the transportation we're going to use? We're going to use a plane, a helicopter, a train? How do we get there? A boat? And what are some, and then we could talk about the different magical places that they create and say, oh, I see that your magical place has water. So we need to get there through what can we get there? What do we need? And then one of their kids will say, a boat. Oh yeah, because we can't fly through water, right? That would be through the air. If we want to use the water, we're going to have to use a boat. And then we can ask, maybe another kid actually built a place that has transformers and there's a big forest around. So we might say, oh, we might need to build in your magical place airplane landing place, right? So we can land there. We could talk about what are some of the ideas that are different. What are all the kids that chose that you get there through boat and drew water in their magical place? And what are kids that chose an airport and they drew the airport to be able to get there? What are some of the things that were alike and different? And how did we make these magical places be able to welcome these people in these different ways and get them to notice the similarities and differences? And then after, when the mural ends, we can ask them to reflect. There's a very famous philosopher that said, we don't learn from experiences. We learn from reflecting on those experiences. How many people you know that have gone through a very similar experience many, many times, but they've actually never learned and they've continued to make the same mistake? I know many of us have that one friend that dates that same kind of guy every single time. And he has the same qualities, but she never reflected on how terrible it went the last time. And then she continues to have those terrible experiences again. So for children, it's the same thing. We can't only prepare for the experience and then do great things during the experience. We need them to reflect on those experiences, to think about how did it go? And we can ask them questions like, how did you feel about your magical place? What did you like about doing your magical place? What was hard about doing your magical place? Did it turn out the way you thought? Did you make changes? Why did you make those changes? And what can we do next time to make our magical place even better? And this isn't an experience that you could do one time. A lot of teachers think, oh, every single day I need to do something different. No, we learn by building on experiences. So now that the child had an opportunity to experience building their magical place, to have ideas about how to have their own space, you can, and they reflected on it, tomorrow, you can do the same experience and ask them to think about how it went yesterday when you built that magical place, right? How did it go? What did you learn from that? Now let's do it again. And let's take everything that we learned to make it better, to make it an even better magical place, to add even something cooler to that magical place. And maybe the day after you do another mural. And now you say, now we're going to work together with a friend to build a magical place between two of us. We're going to build now together that magical place. And now you have children work in pairs and talk through, oh, we're going to make this, we're going to make that. Why are we going to add that there? And encourage them to do it again. So this is a great experience to be able to do that. And I see a teacher was sharing that it's going to help children that are more shy and not as outspoken. That is absolutely true. Because sometimes when we ask a very general question about how are you going to do this, a child might be reluctant. They might not have the words yet. They might be shy. They might not feel comfortable. And this type of experience where they have hands-on things, where you as a teacher could then follow up that question with saying, oh, are you going to use this material or this, is going to help some of those children feel more comfortable. And it's actually a great strategy for DLL kids. So children, dual language learners that are learning two languages, which many of your children here in Miami are dual language learners. All right, so now we're going to see the teacher put this in action. And what I want you to notice about this teacher is you're going to see, I want you to observe not only the teacher, but also the kids. So what is the teacher doing to promote analysis and reasoning, and how are children reacting to that? So I'm going to go ahead and press play now.
Hey, do you want to be neighbors?
Okay.
I want to live with Marissa.
Okay, let's see. We need to build a house.
What if I just have 2 people?
I just have 2 people too. Wow, how many people are in that spot?
3.
4 people over there.
4 people over there.
Let's see how many people we have all together.
Here.
Okay.
Better.
How many people do we have so far?
We have 4.
Oh, okay. I have 4. You have 4. Put yours in the middle. How many are over there?
4. None.
None. Put those in the middle too. Let's see how many we have all together. How many people do we have? How do we figure out how many people there are? You want to take a guess how many people there might be?
No, I don't have.
Oh, I think there's 10.
9, 10, 11, 12.
Wow, 12 people. All right, so we have
Now we get the
12 people and 4 spots. It will be important before you take people. It will be important that we make sure that each spot has the same number of people so that if other children want to come and play, they'll have people to use too. How do we figure out how many people go to each spot? Sarah, you think 4 people go at that spot?
No, because
And-
there's 3 and 3.
Okay, so we can
Yeah.
make 3 groups of 4, but we need more than 3 groups. We need 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. We need to make 4 groups of people. There are more people, and that would be one way to solve that problem. But Sarah chose the number of people she wanted to put out today, and she did not choose to add more people.
Maybe we could ask.
Sarah, we have enough people at this table.
No, ask Sarah
I-
how many she put it out.
Oh, you want to ask Sarah? Instead of asking Sarah, we can figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
12.
There's 12. Yep, there's 12 people. What if we make groups of 2? How many groups of 2 can we make?
Yeah.
How many groups of 2 is that? Okay, so 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. Wow, now we have too many groups. Now we don't have 4 groups. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups. That's too many. Is there a number of people that we haven't tried yet? We tried 4,
Try.
and then we tried 2,
We could try. 3?
3.
No.
Not 3.
No.
You think that if we made groups of 3, that there wouldn't be enough?
Yeah, because what?
Okay, 3 there. 3 there. 1, 2, 3.
No, I
Did that work? You have 3?
and now we get to pick who we want.
Wow, 4 groups of 3 makes 12 people. We figured that out, Sarah. We didn't even need to have that.
I have to say, one of my favorite things that I really like from that video was a little girl like this. All right, so tell me, what are some things that you noticed in that what are some things that you noticed in that chat? I see Dana is saying that the kids were very involved. I know that the audio was a little low. I had it at the highest possible. It's just as in a real classroom. So it was picking up some background noise, but a lot, I see a lot of people were able to hear that there were a lot of open-ended questions, that there was analysis. This teacher could have gone in and she could have said, there's 4 spots. We're going to give the same amount to every spot, but she didn't. It prompted their thinking, right? Getting them to think. She didn't give them the answer. Shayla, that is a great observation. She didn't just give them the answer. She asked them to think through, how are we going to figure this out? And she let them fail, right? She let them fail, and she was okay with that because she understood as a teacher that sometimes we fail. We have ideas that don't plan out. And then she again asked a follow-up question. How are we going to do it? And the little girl in green, she had a great idea. She's like, let's go just put out more of them, no problem. And she redirected her to get her to come back to be able to figure it out, because this was hard for her. And the little girl in green knew it. She let them make mistakes. She encouraged, Sandra was saying, she encouraged them to have their mathematical reasoning. And what this teacher is teaching these kids to do here in preschool is divide. And divide is a very complicated skill. But because these kids are thinking through it with her, trying different things, reasoning, then they're being able to apply this, and they're going to be able to have these aha moments and learn. Great. So these are the kinds of things that we're talking about when we mention analysis and reasoning. So I know that we only have about 5 minutes left together. And so I want to give an opportunities to open it up. We could talk more about the video if you guys like, or if you have any other questions, I'm also happy to answer them. Oh, I see here a teacher was sharing that it gave the child confidence, giving que le da a los niños confianza. Yes, because then since they're able to figure it out themselves, then they are able to have that confidence in themselves in saying, we have this problem and I was able to figure it out. The teacher was just helping, right? She was just being a ring in that ladder. She was helping that child take the next step without taking it for them. And I see Noelia was sharing that she was making their learning experience more enjoyable, right? Because they're learning and she's asking questions and she's encouraging them. And if you notice, even at the beginning, the teacher asked how many were there, and the kids just kind of like looked at her and she's like, I think there are 10. And then the little girl on the side, she actually counted them and was like, oh, there's 12. And the teacher was like, oh, there's 12. So even the teacher was showing them that she was wrong, right? And that it was okay to be wrong. And she even asked, how do we figure out how many there are? To get them to notice that you have to count to figure that out, right? If I tell a child to count how many there are, and they count, but they don't make the connection that when we ask how many, the way we figure that out is through counting, then that is not going to help them long term. That's just helping them learn how to count, but not understanding in what scenario we're using the count. I see here that it's teachers were sharing that the kids were very engaged in solving the problem, right? If that teacher wouldn't have been there asking those questions, those kids wouldn't have been engaged. That teacher is the superhero of this interaction. And that's exactly what you guys are in your classrooms. You are the superheroes that allow these children to engage, to be interested, to have an opportunity to analyze and to reason. And they're learning that through play. I see teachers are sharing here. They're learning it through the play experience. They're doing these very hard critical thinking skills. They're doing something like divide. Even right now, if I sit down with you and I tell you, come on, we're gonna divide together. You'll probably be like, but these kids, they're not even noticing they're dividing. They're having so much fun in their play that they're not noticing that they're doing something that's super hard for them, and they're still doing it. So she's giving them a lot of opportunities to grow in their problem solving and solve their own problems while allowing them to make mistakes. All of this is absolutely true. I really enjoy all the great things that you're sharing in the chat. And I hope that this session, it's going to give you that downloadable sheet that you can review the experience that we went through today. You can review the ideas. It has some of the examples on there. Go ahead and refer to that sheet. And I hope that when you go back to your classroom on Monday, you try some of these things out. Put them into practice. Talk to your other teachers in your same center about it. Talk to your directors. Share that tip sheet with them and ask them to do these things together with you. Talk about what worked and what didn't work, and continue to build this great community that we have here in Miami-Dade County. I also encourage you to visit our website at communityteachstone.com and share. We have teachers, real teachers just like you, sharing the experience that they have had in their classrooms where they're doing analysis and reasoning and supporting children's interactions. I encourage you to join and share with us, and let's make this community better and more powerful. The work that you do is crucial to the success of our nation. The interactions that children get in preschool decide and are able to predict if they go to college, if they have success. You are just like the teachers that I had. And so I encourage you to value the work that you do, encourage others to value the work that you do, and support all these analysis and reasoning skills so the children could go on to be successful. So thank you so much for participating in our session. And I look forward to seeing you in 15 minutes for our next session.